All right, guys, we are back in the studio. It's actually been about 2 days since we were out at the property because we had to get organized.
That's right.
But we're here. I got Dave with me, and I want to break down on this whiteboard behind us the recap of the 2210 West Tonto flip. And, you know, this rehab project, it was a ton of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
But we had fun. And guess what? Hooray for me. It's under contract right now. We actually have it under sold. It took 14 days because of the amazing rehab that you guys managed for me.
Thank you.
And it sold for $167,500. So I'm going to make about $55,000 on this, which makes me very, very happy. And so we had some expectations, right, when we first started this project.
That's right. When you first came to me, you said you wanted to do the whole rehab for $30,000 and take 3 weeks on it.
All right. So that was our estimate. Reality is never always right on your estimate. Have you ever had a rehab project go exactly as planned?
No, and I rarely have them go less than planned. You know, we always like to add in about 10% to whatever we think it's going to cost. If it's $30,000, we'll add in 10%, take it to 33, because when you're rehabbing a house, you never know what you're going to find. There's always going to be surprises. There's going to be unforeseen things.
Let's call it a fudge factor,
right?
So expect about a 10% swing from your estimates, and really how we're going to get to an estimated number is having experience, right? So we're going to talk about hiring the right people. So the reality was $32,000 in our rehab costs and 3 weeks. So you got it done on time, which makes me really happy, and only about $2,000 over budget, which is fine because obviously
you're making a lot of money.
I'm making a lot of money.
Yeah.
It obviously has sold, and selling is half the battle, and only taking 14 days is a big testament of how good the rehab actually turned out for us. So, all right. I want to go through 5 things I want you to write down to kind of close this video out. I want to go through 5 I don't know if I want to call them tips or tricks, but a strategy or a system for real estate investors. Like for me, I'm not the most savvy rehab person. I've done hundreds of rehabs. But as an investor, that's not my specialty. I don't know anything about construction. The last thing you want me to do is swing a hammer. But I need to know how to manage a rehab project, and that's really, really important. It's like a mindset shift, because when I first got started in real estate, I thought I had to know everything about construction in order to rehab properties. Not the case, right? And so this organization or this system is what I want to talk about at the end of this video. So I want you to write this stuff down, and we'll kind of expand on that if that's cool with you.
Sure.
The first thing, or the first step into organizing and systematizing your rehabs is hiring the right power team members. All right? Hiring the right power team members. And we really have, I guess what you would call 3 levels of power team members involved in most rehab projects, right?
Right.
We have our general contractor or project manager, right? We'll talk about the difference between those here in a second. We have our subs, which are specialists in certain things. Maybe they're a specialist in plumbing, or electrical, or maybe in cabinetry or countertops. And then we have our general labor. The general labor is somebody who might do what? Paint?
You know, real easy stuff. Cleanup, demolition, anything that doesn't require too much trade knowledge. Just somebody for $10 or $12 an hour that can come in and just do grunt work, really. Clean up, shoveling rocks, digging holes, cheap, unskilled labor.
All right, yep. And so let's kind of dive into this hiring of power team members, because this is, in my opinion, the reason I was successful on this flip. It was probably the only reason. I could have found the most deeply discounted property. Went in, okay, and when you're rehabbing, you're using money. It might not be your money, but could be other people's money, but it's money, right? This is not monopoly, this is real life. And if I hired the wrong power team members, my budget could have went from estimated 30 to 40 to 50. Who knows how bad it could have gotten.
Right.
So this is really, really important. So let's talk about the difference between a general contractor and a project manager.
Well, a general contractor is going to come in, they're going to estimate the entire job, they're going to give you a lump sum figure. And what they're going to do on that lump sum figure is they're going to figure out all the subcontractors, they're going to put markups on everything, they're going to put profit in it for them. You are going to have a very large number. This project may have been at $50,000 because the general contractor wants to put his profit in there. They want to
His fudge factors.
His fudge
Yep.
factor. He wants to make sure that if something happens, he's covered. If there's any unforeseens, he's covered. If you roll in with a project manager, what the project manager is going to do is he's going to do everything essentially for cost. He's not going to be putting markups on his material. He's not going to be marking up the trades, the subcontractors. He's essentially going to manage your job. He's going to pass over all of the actual invoices to you, and you're going to pay those direct. He is not going to get paid until the end of the job.
Okay, so just to kind of break that down, a general contractor by trade, by his profession, specializes in remodeling properties, sometimes with investors, sometimes with end users. And if you find an investor-friendly general contractor that gets it, right, that understands how to work with an investor, you could probably structure a really great deal with them to where it's performance-based driven, I guess you would say it. That way they're incentivized and they hit certain bonuses and certain incentives and get paid at certain times, maybe more if they hit certain goals, saving you money or getting done faster than typical, whatnot.
Right.
The same with a project manager, but this project managers don't necessarily have to be licensed, bonded, and insured.
A project manager is going to be somebody who is essentially coordinating your trades. They're going to coordinate the installation of your cabinets, your granite, your flooring. He's going to work on your behalf with those guys.
So he's basically you, the investor, taking over your role of all the work that you really probably don't want to do.
Right.
But they still have to be an expert.
Right.
They have to be a specialist, which you're a project manager, right?
Right.
And I have an incentive program with you that you get paid a certain amount on this project based on whether the project gets done on time and under budget.
Right.
And if you do hit certain things, you get certain bonuses
Right.
along the way. And so that's how I structured the relationship with you. But I actually found you
Right.
through an investor referral. So if you're trying to ask yourself, well, where do I find Dave? You find Dave through investor referrals. That's the best place you're going to find your power team members.
Yeah.
And I found you because I was selling property to an investor that you do a lot of rehabs with. And I said, hey, I got this rehab project. I want to bring Dave on board. And since then, we've been working together. So the deal you have with him is just a tiny bit different than the deal you had with me, where my deal was like a flat fee. If you get done on budget and on time, you get this amount, and if you go over, you get this amount.
Right.
Okay, and depending on how far you go over, you might not.
I
get
might
it.
owe you money.
Yeah, right. So, but your deal with him is more like
Well, you know,
performance based.
There are several ways to set it up. You can pay a project manager a percentage of your profits. You can pay a project manager a fixed fee. There's all sorts of different
So give me an example of getting paid as a part of the percentage of the deal.
Well,
Give me a percentage amount.
10%.
Okay, so 10% of the profits.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever.
Of the profits,
of
right?
Of the net
Okay.
profits, yes.
So if you're trying to think of a way to go out and find a Dave in your local area through an investor referral, come at them and say, hey, look, I'm doing rehabs. This is how I'm structuring my deals, the way that we're teaching you right now. And by the way, I'll pay you 10% of whatever the profits are. If you're doing a big rehab project and the profit is 60 grand, that's 70 grand, 80 grand, 150 grand. Now they're very incentivized to work on your best behalf.
The other thing too, from my position, if I'm meeting you for the first time, I might feel more comfortable taking a fixed fee. Because if I don't know you and you come to me and say, hey, I'll pay you a percentage of the profits, I might say, you know what, I've never dealt with you. I would rather do it for a fixed fee.
And then worry about modifying it down the road. That's really good advice. All right, subs. You want your subs, especially if you're working with a project manager versus a general contractor, you want your subs to be licensed, bonded, and insured.
Right.
Really important. And we're talking about the important things, right? Electrical, plumbing.
Plumbing, electrical, especially your roof. Anything, I look at it as anything where somebody could get hurt. The roof, the electrical, the plumbing, you want to get a licensed guy that's insured. Your tile guy, if it's shoveling rocks or doing that sort of thing, that doesn't matter. But anything where you could get hurt or there's the potential for your home to be damaged, burned down, flooded.
Okay.
That's where you want your licensed, bonded, and insured subcontractor.
Okay, and then general labor could be anybody, like you said, $10 to $12 an hour
Right.
or less,
Right.
depending on what you can get them for. Local kids in the neighborhood, whatever you got to
exactly.
help you out with the general stuff.
Yes.
All right. I guess it would be the next, number two, the next thing we want to talk about is organization. And it's really, really important that you stay organized in a rehab project, because if you're just managing one project, you could probably just kind of wing it and you'll be all right.
Right.
Second, you add 2 rehab projects going on at the same time, you become a hot mess if you don't do this right. And so we have some, I don't want to call it a tip, but we have some suggestions on how to stay organized. So
Yeah, what we do is we use Dropbox, and that's an online file storage. It's free unless you upgrade to more storage, but it's called Dropbox. You can set up files on there. You can access those files from any computer. You just need an internet connection. So it's really helpful for organizing anything from receipts, photos, closing documents, purchase documents. Anything, any paperwork associated with that job is going to go right into Dropbox. Me, as the project manager, uploads receipts, information, reports,
Pictures, whatever.
pictures. You have access to that. I share that folder with you. Anytime you want to log in, where are we on the job? What receipts do I owe? It's all right there. Any computer, anywhere that you're at, you can be sitting on the beach in California like you often do. Pull it up on your laptop. You can see, hey, these are the progress pictures.
It's
this
great.
is where we are. We've got these invoices due. It works out really well.
And what I really like about it is it's free, one,
Yeah.
and I really like it because at the end of the rehab project, I can go back and look at the entire thing,
Right.
and you kind of see the evolution of how the entire rehab project went down, and everything's in one easy to manage place.
Right, and the other thing too, I've got all of the receipts are there. We scan those in, but we also have an actual physical folder that all of the receipts go into. And I, as the project manager, save that until the project is done. I take the folder, I say, here are the hard copies for you. It's everything
And
in
it
the
matches
file.
up with what's on Dropbox.
It's exactly
Now,
what's-
you brought the file
I did.
folder with you.
I've got one right here. This is for your project. As you can see, it's kind of thick. There was a lot of work done to it. But here are all of the actual receipts. These are actual Home Depot receipts. These are the legitimate ones. These are not copies. I scotch taped them to this piece of paper.
This is a really good tip, because what I like about this concept is, say he went to Home Depot and he bought thousands of dollars worth of
Right.
stuff. And let's say you're working for me, because I got you on an investor referral,
Right.
but you're also working for that other investor on a project for him, and you're working for maybe another investor for a project for him. You could, in theory, go to Home Depot one time
Yeah.
for his project or her project, and then show up to me and say, hey, I need you to pay this, this amount
Right.
for stuff. If I'm not like totally detailed and organized on everything, I might just pay that receipt off and not even know. But if you bring me the physical receipt,
Yes. Then you know it's real. I'm not taking this to 5 other investors saying, hey, you owe me $1,000 to Home Depot. The thing that also would incentivize a guy like me as a project manager is if I'm needlessly billing you or needlessly getting reimbursements from you, I'm going to eventually go over budget. So that goes back to keeping the budget in check. I don't want to just keep slamming you with all these receipts. I don't want to artificially inflate the cost of your job. That's why it would be good if you're paid based on the profits of the job. You or me as a project
You're incentivized
manager,
to
I
keep
want
it clean.
I want to keep the costs low.
right?
But-
And underneath this video, we're going to have some screenshot video of the actual Dropbox account for
Right.
this particular project. So if you want to see how that's set up and organized, just go underneath this video. There's probably a little supplemental video, and you'll be able to see exactly how that's set up and how we organize everything. And you can
Right.
see all of our receipts. Everything's going to be in there. So
Right.
yeah, that'll really, really be helpful for them. All right. So next, number 3, managing crews and scheduling. Managing crews. First, you got to have the crew, right?
Right.
You got to be able to hire the crew. But then there's an important task of scheduling them all out and managing them, making sure that they do their jobs, that you inspect their work and whatnot. So let's talk about scheduling them out. I know in a rehab we could probably talk for an hour on how that could potentially work, but
there are a whole lot of details involved with that. And back on the video, at some point when you and I first met, I was telling you about when we first hit a job, these are the first things that we do. We call out a termite inspection. We inspect the roof. We inspect the pool. We inspect
AC,
the air conditioning. I mean, these are the things that are going to potentially cost a lot of money.
water heater.
The water heater, the plumbing, you want to know, aside from cosmetic stuff, that's obvious. You want to know structural stuff. Is the roof going to cave in? Am I going to have to pay $15,000 for a new roof, or am I going to have to pay $1,500 for a roof repair? Do I have termites? Do I have wood rot? I want to find all of this out before I go shopping for cabinets, granite, because once
Could affect the budget,
Exactly.
swing the budget big time.
Once you determine those costs that you've got to fix, then you can back into your cosmetic stuff. Then you can start to back into your overall budget, because you don't want to find out after the fact that you've got to drop 15 grand on a roof. Now your $30,000 becomes $45,000 and you're not making any money and you're angry at me. I want to make sure I'm completely
We know that
covered.
up front.
We want to know all that
right.
stuff up front.
So you get them out there right in the beginning. So that's kind of like step one, but then we
Yes.
got to go to demo.
Right.
And then from demo, we got to go to
As soon as we figure out what our actual our structural costs, things we've got to do, then we can start tearing the house apart. Let's say everything checks out, we're good. We know what we're gonna do inside. We call the demo crew out.
I highly suggest, if you're watching this and you've never done a rehab before, you go out there and you demo with them, because that's a lot of fun. The first couple times you get to swing an old a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Or work the jackhammer, or do whatever. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
So I've got manual
to be able to
labor
do
guys, that's their favorite part. They're looking for demo work because they can go take out their frustrations, tear the cabinets down, tear the tile up. What we'll also do typically is we'll bring in a large roll-off dumpster. That will run you anywhere from $250 to $300. Waste management is obviously a big name. There are a lot of smaller companies that will bring out a big roll-off dumpster. You put it in the driveway, you demo the
Fill it
house,
up.
fill it up,
And-
call them, they take it away. You don't
Perfect.
want to have to worry about, now I've got this big pile of trash, what do I do with it? Get a dumpster out there right away. Start your demolition. Once you've got everything demolished, now you have a shell. Now you can walk into the house, everything's gone, all the old junk is gone, you're starting with a fresh, clean slate. Now you can start calling out your subcontractors, whether it's flooring, carpets, granite, cabinets, the painter.
And when they come out there, you meet them out there,
Yes.
and they measure.
Yes.
And then they'll start building bids, right?
Yes.
And estimates for
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
And that's all goes into Dropbox, so we can kind of see the evolution, and then
Right.
you negotiate with them.
Right. And another thing that I would advise somebody doing this for the first time, they might say, I don't have a guy to do this. I don't have a painter. What's the best way to do that? What's the best way to find that person? What I did initially years ago when I started with this is you call out 2 or 3 different companies to provide you with a quote, an estimate. Same thing with a roofer. Call out maybe 3 different roof guys. Say, hey, what's it going to cost to fix this? You'll have 3 different numbers, and eventually you'll get to a point where you have a relationship, you're comfortable, they know me, I know them, they know what I expect. So, after you've done several of these, you get your power team members.
And I know there's some places out there like angieslist.com.
Yeah.
I think the other one's servicemagic.com,
Right.
where you can read reviews from other people that have used them in the past. And even though you have to pay like whatever, $40 a month or $90 a month or whatever it costs to be a member for Angie's List, you can get a lot of your subs out of there
Sure.
initially.
Sure.
And then get them out.
What'll happen, honestly, is you're going to have a lot of guys that you may never use again. You might pick a roofer and say, you know what, he didn't show up, he did bad work, I'm going to try again. So after you've gone through a number of these, you do end up with that power team. So you become accustomed to what to expect. It's a great relationship. They give you very good pricing.
So subs come out.
The subs come out, yes.
Then how do you know what order to install everything?
Well, what you're going to want to do is, after you've got everything cleaned out, you're going to want to paint the interior. So you pick out your paint color, you paint your walls, you paint your ceiling, and then you'll fall into certain things such as perhaps new doors, baseboards, that sort of thing. You'll have your tile guys come in, then you'll bring in your cabinet guy, he'll set in his cabinets. The granite goes on the cabinets. You've got all of your finished stuff. You've got your doorknobs. You've got your sink fixtures. You've got your lights, your fans, your windows. Yeah. So there's kind of a flow in order, and it's very logical. You don't need to think too hard about it. You're not going to want to put in your cabinets before you've done your floor. You're not going to want to paint until you've done your demolition, because if you paint and then you take out your tile, you're making dust, you're scratching the walls.
Right.
So if you just think logically through it, it kind of makes sense.
That's good advice. And this is your job.
That's what I do.
Right? Your job is to handle this step.
Right.
So I can go sit on the beach in California.
Right.